You don't always realize how bad the teachers are at Hogwarts until you see an example of what good teaching looks like. And you're reminded. Most of the guidance that children receive in this school are pretty much horrendous. And today I'm joined by Radio Mike, creator of Harry Potter and the Boys, to celebrate the first ever decent Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. Hi, and welcome to Belated Binge Harry Potter, the re-binge podcast that doesn't take itself or the books too seriously. I'm Zach, your host, and I didn't read this series until my mid-20s. Today, we continue Prisoner of Azkaban with Chapter 7, The Boggart in the Wardrobe.
The Belated Binge Podcast.
Before we start, spoilers, obviously. Language, definitely. Shout out to Katie and Alice holding it down for the Bonus Binge Squad. Alice is the newest member of the Bonus Binge Squad on Patreon. If you want to join that fun and get shout outs in all the episodes, as well as access to bonus episodes and other cool benefits like shout outs in all of the podcasts, check out patreon.com/belatedbinge. We're going to get to the chapter in just a second, but first, I need to welcome my guest. He is the host of Harry Potter and the Boys, along with 20th Century Boy and probably 100 other things, all the way from literally the other side of the world, from tomorrow, calling in. It is Radio Frickin' Mike. How's it going, man?
Oh, it is so good to be here. I actually like every time someone from America asks me to be on their podcast, which has only happened like 2 or 3 times, I'm just like, I cannot believe this, because as an Australian, getting into the US is like the biggest thing that can happen. And I assume it doesn't work the other way. Like no one from America is like, oh, we've got to make it big in Australia.
I actually completely disagree, because I was just talking to my wife about how fucking excited I was to have this conversation with you, the guy from Australia. And
cool.
She was like, oh, I know you've been trying to do this for a long time. Like, I've literally talked about it and built it up. So you're a much
That's
bigger
amazing.
deal than you think.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah, it's great to be here. Yeah, from the future. We were just talking off air about how you just had dinner. I'm getting lunch after this. It is crazy. Time zones. How do they work? Please explain.
I just want to know if tomorrow sucks like today sucked. That's really all I'm looking for.
Hey, man, tomorrow is a little better. Tomorrow
Nice.
is a little better. And hopefully the next day is even more.
I'll take it. So I like to do this with everybody because this is a Harry Potter centric podcast, and I was super duper late to the party. I like to hear how other people got into it. So, like, what's your Harry Potter story? How'd you get into it in the first place?
Yeah, because you only read them in your mid-20s, was it that?
Yeah.
Which I think is absolutely absurd as someone who was born in the 90s. Can I just ask you, how did you miss it? How did you miss them?
Well, so I grew up. Without telling the whole internet and tens of people listening to this my exact birth date, I am damn near spot on movie canon Harry.
Right.
I was 11 in 2001 when that came out. And so I grew up through the entire hype. And I did read the first few books as a kid when they were coming out. So I got through part of Goblet of Fire before I just put them down.
Right.
I was an athlete. I was at the right age to think that I was going to be chasing girls unsuccessfully. And well, the unsuccessful part was in retrospect, but I just prioritized other things other than reading. I just didn't read
fair
at
enough.
all after that. And I started to get made fun of a lot for bearing a striking resemblance to the character.
I was actually just going to say, you actually look a lot like Daniel Radcliffe. I just realized that it's actually uncanny. Yeah, you look unbelievably like Harry Potter. That is crazy.
I've heard that a fair amount in my life. And when you're a kid and you're being made fun of in such manner, it doesn't really spark a ton of desire to go read the books that the people are making fun of you for looking like. So I just
Yeah.
didn't. But when I was yikes, in mid-20s at some point in time, my wife and I had our first like place, and I've I've told this story on the podcast, so I'll give the shortened version. But I used to come home and turn sports on, like I did all the time. I used to work in sports radio. I was like sports, always on the TV. My wife couldn't give a fuck about sports at all. And so I was like,
Classic.
wait, that doesn't seem to be a very fair use of the, TV monopoly I've got going on during dinner time. So I would try to find stuff that we might have in common, or at least that she liked enough. And I was like, I know what this is. And the Harry Potter movies would be on all the time. And I'd be like,
awesome.
what is happening? Like, what I'm asking questions, and her answer is always, it's better in the books. You'd have to read the books. So eventually I read the damn books.
Get the whole context.
Yeah. And here I am now talking about them on a podcast because, I'm original.
That's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Harry Potter child. I was probably like 6 years old when the first one came out, or 7 maybe, which was, I think sorry, I'm talking about the movies when I say that. So I remember going to the cinema with my parents and my brother to see the first Harry Potter film, which came out around Christmas, at least in Australia, in 2001. And I actually remember being really scared when Professor Quirrell takes off the turban and you see Voldemort on the back. I remember that scaring me. And then I think from there, I just started reading the books, and then I would start watching the movies. We used to go with my parents to every movie. They would take us, and then that sort of dropped off by like the 6th one, where they were getting a bit too, like the ones where Harry's like kissing Cho and there's all these romantic stuff where you're like, oh, I don't want to see this one with my parents. But just obsessed. Saw the final movie in cinemas like 7 times. Went to the premiere screening, well, the Melbourne premiere, not the actual premiere, but like all that stuff, and loved the books, obsessed. And yeah, probably around 2007, I started writing fanfic because I was just like a prolific writer as a kid, not just Harry Potter, like everything. And I wrote my Harry Potter fanfics, which now I do a podcast where I read them out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I've always been obsessed with it. I still love it. I love the entire franchise, and yeah, I just think it's great.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to have you explain a little bit about, is Harry Potter and the boys.
Yeah, this is just the most absurd thing ever. So that's my pod, and it's actually based on when I was at primary school, or elementary school, as you guys would say. I think when I was in grade 4, so maybe 10 years old, I used to handwrite, in a scrapbook, this Harry Potter fanfic called Harry Potter and the Boys with a few other students in my class. And then, 3 or 4 years later, I was at high school, year 7, grade 7th grade. You know what I mean.
I do.
Know what I mean when I say year 7.
I do.
I don't have to translate. Like, the Americans are going to be so confused about how we say it.
We actually skip 7. We go straight 6 to 8. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
What?
7. 7 is a number? That's
you don't
a number?
have 7th grade.
Oh, I'm totally kidding.
Oh, okay, that just shows how dumb I am that I believe. So I found in year 7, I found that book, the handwritten one. And I was like, oh, this is funny. I'm going to digitize it and kind of update it. So I started like writing it on Microsoft Word, and then I just kept going, and I wrote 7 Harry Potter fanfics that are like absurd, fourth wall breaking, sexually charged. And Harry is like this abusive headmaster of Hogwarts who is an absolute lunatic who has very little regard for the safety of the students. And it's pretty funny. So that's why, and I don't know where it spurred from, but yeah.
So he's Albus Dumbledore, is what you're saying. That's what you described.
yeah. He's like Dumbledore, but like if Dumbledore was more explicit in his ignorance of of child safety because Dumbledore is subtle about it. In my book, Harry just fucking like does not give a fuck. In fact, he actively like sometimes kills students. So yeah. But there's this there's a bunch of new mysteries, a bunch of new characters, and a bunch of new twists, and it sort of loosely follows the original. It's sort of parodying the original books. So in the you haven't finished the first book, I don't think, so I don't want to spoil. I won't spoil for anyone what happens, but there's a lot of like similar things, but maybe like more like if there's a twist in the original books, I'll sort of do the same twist with a sexual spin or a fart based spin or a swear word based spin or something like that. So yeah, it's very mature.
And I think it's worth noting that you wrote it when you were like 13. Like reiterate like the fact that you're able to have written it back then, make a podcast out of it now, and still make it be funny. There's a level of jealousy that I feel right now, and also admiration, and I don't know which one to lean into harder.
Dude, I wouldn't be jealous because I'm pretty sure this podcast will prevent me from getting any real job ever. So I've basically gone all in on podcasting because there's no way any legitimate person would hire me after this podcast being publicly available. So yeah.
I think it should just be your resume. Just walk into interview rooms with a little recorder, like a tape deck.
Press play. This is me. You want
this
me? You've got me. Yeah.
Yep. I made this successful on the internet. Imagine what I could do for you.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
All right, should we jump into the chapter discussion?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, first, in case you were obliviated or you got your Hogwarts letter late, let's shove our faces in that white liquidy substance of our pensive. In Chapter 6, Talons and Tea Leaves, I was joined by Dan from Hogwarts, a podcast. Shout out to Dan. Trelawney, one of those fine teachers of Hogwarts, predicted Harry's death just to get a rise out of her students. And then Hagrid gets a rise out of Harry, literally rising off the ground on the back of a hippogriff, and a hippogriff that Malfoy later insults and gets an armful of claws, which results in a lot of bad news for Hagrid, and that's pretty much the gist of the entire chapter. So now we have reached the point where our wands connect, not the tips, just the streams, so we can recap what went down in the chapter we just read this week. Our priority Incan chapter is from Chapter 7, The Boggart in the Wardrobe. In this chapter, if I could summarize it, Remus Lupin does cool shit as a teacher. That's pretty much the gist.
You feel bad for Lupin, don't you? Because he was such a good teacher. He's like destined to teach that subject. And then, unfortunately, as we know, it doesn't really work out for him. But yeah, you feel bad that it ended the way it did, as in how he got sort of sacked for being a werewolf.
Yeah, you do. It's awful. And I may have put it might even be in the notes here somewhere. Do you think that he was particularly adept at teaching defense against the dark arts, or could he have just been a good teacher of any subject?
That's a great question. I just think he's a really good teacher because, and there's a few things in this chapter that show it. Like, I think maybe he would like specialize in defense against the dark arts, but he could probably teach anything. But I think as a character, he's really well written in that he's almost like one of the first teachers that really like respects the students and almost treats them as equal, not as equals, but like has much more of like a mentor relationship with the students and respect for them than like compared to obviously Snape. But even like McGonagall feels like a very authoritative character. As much as she's like a good character, she feels like she asserts her kind of not power, maybe her her superiorness or her seniority over the students. Whereas Lupin feels like that cool teacher at school that's also good and the students respect him.
Yeah, I agree. McGonagall is definitely more that disciplinarian, and Snape is that trash. But yeah,
Dickadarian.
Yes, very well put. I tend to think I tend to agree with you. I think that Lupin probably could have taught just about any subject at Hogwarts, and I think it's unfortunate that he didn't get that opportunity.
Mm,
I think
yeah.
the whatever the wider canon says he was basically like homeless or whatever before this. Like it would have been nice if the dude had a job at Hogwarts that wasn't Defense Against the Dark Arts that he could only do for a year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like maybe his sort of attitude towards the students is informed by his own time being a student at Hogwarts and his own
Mhm.
time sort of understanding what it's like to be a student and also being a bit mischievous at his time at Hogwarts. But also I think just because of the discrimination he faced, like he doesn't treat other people the way that he's treated. He treats people with respect, like no matter who they are, whereas he is on the sort of receiving end of a lot of flack because of who he is. And like I think that's a really interesting insight to his character.
Yeah, I agree with you. We're gonna dive more into Lupin in a bit, but
Mm.
first we have to get through the Slytherins of it all because it starts with Malfoy being a douche about his hippogriff induced. Maybe that should be a
Mm.
word that
He's
exists in the English
induced.
language. He's been induced by a hippogriff. In potions of all places, Snape lets him stroll in late, disrupt the class, makes Ron and Harry do his work for him, and makes sure that Draco gets the best ingredients of all of it and all of that nonsense. I don't want to recount it line by line because it's just going to annoy me.
Yeah.
And Snape knows that this is all an act too, right? Like he knows Malfoy's faking this shit.
There's a few things here that really frustrate me, not like about the characters. So I think we see in this chapter how just like privileged, but also how much power the Malfoy family has and how much of a dickhead Malfoy can be. I feel like the movies kind of portray him sometimes as just like a little bit, he's like a bully, but he's not sinister necessarily, right?
Yeah,
Whereas here, like, he actively is like faking this injury to try and get Hagrid sacked, which is like, just so mean.
it's
And
manipulative.
then yeah, it's manipulative. That's the other thing. I don't like that Snape knows it's an act and like allows it to go forward, because I would think even though Snape and Hagrid aren't close, like I wouldn't think Snape has anything against Hagrid, but he would know that this is going to lead to Hagrid being sacked. And the other thing I think we see here is Ron, who a lot of people agree got done really dirty in a lot of the movies, often
Oh,
just comic
so bad.
relief, a lot of his lines stolen by Hermione. But Ron is really actively like angry at Malfoy, wants to like beat him up, and like is defending Hagrid, right? Ron is really on the forefront of that, which I really respect from his character here.
Yeah, he doesn't get enough of his supportive side, I guess you could
Mm.
say, in the movies. He's relegated to a supportive character, and he doesn't get to show how fiercely he supports the people that he cares about.
He's
It-
so loyal in the books. He's
yeah,
such a loyal character. And as you said, like he will stand up for the people that he cares about and loves. Whereas in the movies, I always thought, not to jump around a bit, but in the final movie, when Harry tells Ron and Hermione that he's the last Horcrux and he has to die, Hermione goes and gives Harry a big hug, and Ron just stands at the
yeah,
back, doesn't even say anything to Harry. And I thought, wow, what a missed opportunity! Like Ron would be there being like, no, you're not doing this. We're going with like, but like the movie, they don't even give him a line to say to his best friend.
no,
Like it's
he's
crazy.
he's missing all of the fire that the character has, even for better or
Yes.
worse in the books, because that fire doesn't get placed in the right places all of the time in the books, but like he has it, and he's, um, it you just get Rupert Grint making funny faces, and that's what
Yeah.
you get.
And I actually think Rupert could have done a great job with if
Yeah,
he had been given those lines. I think he's a really, really good actor. But yeah, I think the beauty of Ron is he will be loyal to his friends despite like if it's going to affect him negatively. And
yeah.
sometimes he's brash and he acts without thinking, but it's because he's loyal to his friends. And I think that quality is lost a bit in the movies.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree with you about Draco too. I think the Tom Felton of it all, the kind of lack of screen time, and they really they tone down the bullying. I
Mm,
imagine because they didn't want to put bullying on screen, because they do the same with
mm,
Snape. Like they're
yeah,
minor annoyances in the movies
yeah.
at
But
best.
but but as you said, like Felton, the charm of Tom Felton, who is a devilishly charming
Yeah,
man, like he's a fantastic actor. Um, but like in the movies, you kind of sometimes you're rooting for Malfoy just because you want to be friends with Tom Felton because he seems like a cool dude.
such is, I would say, at least half the Draco support online
Yeah,
is just
exactly.
for that exact
Felton.
reason. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's wild. I'm gonna try to get Tom Felton on this podcast. He's going to say no, but at some point in time, I'm gonna shoot that shot.
I
Um,
actually reached out to Colin Creevy, as in the actor,
yeah,
and I did get a reply. It was a
nice.
no, but I can say I have spoken via email to the actor who played Colin Creevy. Don't know
That's
his name.
awesome. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Can I also say in this potions class that again, we see just how much of a dickhead Snape is as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, as you said, forcing Harry and Ron to cut up his potions ingredients, and then, um, you know, Hermione helps Neville. I'm sure we're getting to this, but Hermione helps Neville with his potion. Um, ne- Snape is going to force Neville to feed the potion to his toad, and if it's wrong, the toad will die. Snape knows this. Hermione helps him, and then Snape takes points off Gryffindor because she helped him. Like Snape is just mean, and
Yeah,
obviously there's the redemption in inverted commas at the end of the series with Snape, but you still got to remember that he was just a mean guy, regardless of whether he loved Harry's mum or not.
yes. I literally couldn't have said it better myself. I got to skip a whole paragraph in the notes because that's literally what happened. The fact that he literally took away points from their house because Neville got it right.
Mm.
Let that
And
sink in from an educational standpoint.
that's it. And the other thing is like, what are you encouraging in a classroom when you do that? Because you're basically punishing Hermione for knowing the answers and for being studious is like the opposite of what a teacher should do. Like
Yeah.
Snape should love Hermione because she cares about potions and she gets it, right?
She's
But
literally
instead,
the only one.
yeah, he puts her down and takes points off her and makes her feel bad for helping her peers, which is what I think we can ask for in education is that like people care about the subject and help their peers who are struggling. Like, so I hate Snape in this chapter for that.
I agree with you. It's a through line. It's been happening every book. It's been happening in this book. It happens more in this book. Every time Hermione tries to answer a question in his class, he puts her down
Mm,
and like publicly ridicules her
yeah,
for
for being a
trying to
know-it-all.
answer the question that he asked. Yeah. When nobody else is trying to. It's
Exactly.
infuriating.
It
Absolutely
sucks.
infuriating.
It's the worst kind of teacher you could possibly have. And you even wonder, like, surely if Dumbledore, like, does Dumbledore ever pull Snape aside and have a word with him? Just be like, hey, if students are putting their hands up and answering questions, you can't shut them down for it. That's not what we do here at Hogwarts.
I think that the fandom takes a lot of liberties to take shots at Dumbledore
Mm,
about the way that he interacts with Harry or the way that he uses people around him or the way that he withholds information. Lots of things, lots of gray with Dumbledore that the fandom
mm.
tries to vilify him for, which I sometimes I see the gray, sometimes I think people just want to hate Dumbledore, but the fact that Severus Snape is able to treat students like this in his classroom under Dumbledore's leadership as headmaster is to me quite possibly the biggest black mark on Dumbledore's character
Yeah.
in the entire series.
or that he literally let Professor Quirrell teach Defense Against the Dark Arts when Voldemort was on the back of his head. Like,
Yeah, not great foresight there. Not
yeah.
great. Or backside, but back of head sight.
Backside, yeah, back of head sight. Or
Rear
letting,
sight.
yeah, just I mean, Dumbledore, the amount of blunders this man has had, it's hard to believe he's still in the job, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I said this with Dan on the last episode. He has his hands full. You know, his primary job is to kill a serial killer that's invincible currently. So like he's putting most of his effort there. Just running this school and is just a thing that he does.
But no, I disagree with you. His primary job is running the school. Like, his job actually isn't to kill Voldemort. He could just be like, "Hey, I'm the headmaster of this school. Send the police. I'm not looking after this." he bestows it upon himself and then like gets upset about it. It's like, "Hey man, why don't you just run the school?"
He could. And what's funny is, in the same breath, I would say that one of the only things he actually cares about in life is are the students of Hogwarts, despite the fact that he does so many things that go against that line of thinking throughout the entire
100%.
series.
Absolutely.
He is the grayest character, and I'm not talking about his beard. Also, one of the most fun to talk about. What did you make of the Malfoy, obligatory, we have to say, you mentioned earlier, he's doing this to try to get Hagrid fired. Daddy's gonna get Hagrid fired. He's got a lot of sway in the ministry and all, and whatnot, and I couldn't care less. The thing that I hone in on a little bit more here is where the Sirius Black sighting is brought up, and Malfoy gets that like sinister smile in that like unique angle to bully Harry through that he just relishes. We're getting used to Harry not knowing shit about himself and his family and his past and all of that. He's oblivious to everything around him and everything that has to do with him pretty much all the time. Until he's not, because the plot needs him to be. But the fact that Malfoy seems to know something, and it has to do with Sirius Black, a man that he has learned is supposedly out to kill him, and he has no idea why. Malfoy seems to know something. And while I think it's the fact that Malfoy's saying, I would want to go after him myself, I would get revenge, that Malfoy's not going after anybody by himself ever for anything, any reason. He's a coward. Anyways, but I can't think of a worse way or something that would make Harry stew more than the idea that Malfoy knows something about him that he doesn't and can hold it over his head like this.
Yeah, it's kind of gaslighty. I don't know if it's gaslighty. It's like there must be a term for like using information over someone like that, because I mean, obviously he's alluding to the fact that Sirius betrayed the Potters. Harry doesn't even know that I don't does Harry even know that Sirius knew the Potters at this point? No, he
no
only
clue.
All he knows is that Sirius killed Peter Pettigrew, right?
I don't think he even knows that much yet, does he?
He just
does
knows
he know that it's
Sirius killed people.
I think so.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah,
and so
I think
so Harry doesn't know that there's any connection to him. And funnily enough, like it is, when you think about it, he doesn't know that Lupin knew his parents. And that, there's a lot of people, like, it's funny Lupin didn't just say to Harry, I went to school with your dad, I was really good friends with him.
Yeah, that's something that I question. I think I think it's going to come up in a later chapter because they actually get some one-on-one time. But the fact that that Lupin hasn't made any kind of outreach to connect with Harry in any way and inform him that he was friends with his parents and that they do share a connection, and that, like, knowing that Harry's an orphan, I doubt that he knows that he's abused at home. I
Mm,
doubt he knows that much unless Dumbledore has told him, which is very possible. I hypothesize part of Dumbledore's master plan is that Remus Lupin is here this year because this is the point where Dumbledore starts caring a little bit more about Harry's quality of life over just keeping
mm.
him alive as a chess piece, and he wants to provide him family,
Yeah. No, that's
some form of family, and that's why he brings Lupin in now. That's my ongoing Dumbledore theory that continues to develop throughout the pod. But the fact that Lupin hasn't reached out, he hasn't made mention, even in passing, like anything. Now, granted, this is the first time they're actually in class with him, but they've been at Hogwarts at least for a minute. They've seen
yeah.
each other, so they were on the train. For he literally, you know, pew pewed the Patronus to get rid of the Dementor that made Harry pass out, and he gave him the chocolate and
Mm,
all of that. No mention at all. Hey, I knew your parents. Nothing.
yeah.
It's
Because
odd.
it obviously would have meant so much to Harry. But back to Malfoy, yeah, I just think it's really mean. It is this kind of like psychological thing of, yeah, I know something that you
Hmm.
don't. Harry doesn't seem super phased by it. If anything, he seems more confused by it. Which I guess is good. Like I think he says, "Why did Malfoy say that about Sirius Black?" Like, well, I don't like. Why would I want to get revenge on him? Like, he's confused and curious. I don't think he's angry or upset about it. Like, he's not sort of threatening Malfoy, like, tell me or this or anything like that. So yeah.
But I think that's why it eats at him.
Yeah, for sure.
If it was something he was just angry about, I think it would pass. But this gets to
Mm,
linger, you know?
yeah, yeah.
It
And I
was one
guess
thing
like
when Hermione knew something about like his dad being on the Quidditch team or something. Like it's one thing when that's the case. It's another when Malfoy knows.
yeah,
So the Toad survives, thank God. We mentioned Snape takes points from Gryffindor because Neville actually got the potion right. In
yes.
transition, Ron is yelling at Hermione about losing the points. Like Ron gives a fuck about losing points for Gryffindor, but for this scene he needs to because we have to have the disappearing act for Hermione.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And we
There
have
has
to
to be a
have
reason for it.
yeah, there has to be a
That
reason for her to not and then just like poof, bottom of the stairs again or whatever.
it does feel sort of unfair for Ron to be upset at it. Like it does feel out of
Yeah.
character that Ron would be upset at her because like he knows it's Snape and he's just doing stupid stuff. Like he should be angry at Snape, not Hermione.
And that's what normally happens. Usually
Mm,
he's mad at Snape, and that's what we get. It literally happens in like the very next chapter. They come out of a Snape class and he's seething at Snape. And in this case, yeah, he's turned it on Hermione, which is it just seems weird, and I think it's literally just a vehicle to get us to the Time Turner like Easter egg of
yeah.
Hermione's there and now she's not, and she
It
doesn't
it could
really know that she was gone, and this kind of weird thing.
it could also be there's some I guess there's some pent up frustration with Ron around the Crookshanks and Scabbers stuff. So maybe he's kind of
Fair.
already upset. That kind of feels in character with Ron. But yeah, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, it is just we keep getting these references to the time turner that we don't yet know is a time turner. And yeah.
Yeah, it's heavy-handed to say the least.
Mm.
And Ron continues to be the only person on this mystery and that gives a shit about this mystery.
And because of that, it kind of feels like something you're supposed to dismiss.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the movies coming through, but it does feel like, Ron's going on about this thing. You're just supposed to be like, oh, Ron, shut up. It's obviously nothing. You're thinking too much about it. And it does kind of just gloss over you a bit. You don't think much of it.
Well, I think it's because we see the books through Harry's perspective and Harry doesn't give it a second thought.
Yes.
Harry's
Yeah, that's
completely
for sure.
oblivious to it. If
No, that's
Harry
100% true.
if Harry gave it even just like a shred uh of merit and actually talked to Ron about Ron's suspicions, we wouldn't have had the big surprise at the end because we would have figured something out or at least been on to it and paying attention to it. But you're right. It's kind of like a wait, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why would she have just popped up at the bottom of this? That doesn't make any sense.
But that being said, like, I wonder, I don't remember reading this book for the first time, but I seriously doubt I picked up that it was something important. But I guess, like, the fact that J.K. Rowling keeps coming back to it during the book, like, I guess that should click. Maybe now as an adult, it would click for me now that there's something more to this. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's set up at the very, very beginning of them getting to Hogwarts because when Harry gets taken to McGonagall's office to check on him after the fainting spell on the train, Hermione is brought with him. And they ask Harry to step out of the room for a McGonagall Hermione chat, which seems incredibly out of place. We've never seen anything like that before. Like, so it's planted that early that there's something different about Hermione this year, or something that Hermione's not telling us, or whatever, you know. And it just we didn't. I'm sure I'm sure I didn't have a clue.
I do still think it is absurd that the school would allow a 14-year-old student to have this power and trust her with it. I really think it's a very convenient plot point. And
so bad.
Yeah, I think this is, to me, the time turner opens up so many issues with the series continuity. And also one of my biggest gripes with Cursed Child, which we will not speak of. But like, yeah, I do think this whole plot of Hermione getting a time turner and going to all the classes is just completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with you. We can give that a big old ridiculous, or however the hell he says it in the movie. And that's where we are, actually. We've got our first Defense Against the Dark Arts class. Look at that. Transitions, segues.
Amazing.
It's like we've been on the radio before, even though nobody's listening to this particular program. It's Lupin's first class, and he shows up late. He tells them to put their books away and take out their wands. And he's already the best teacher ever. Put your book away and take out your wand. Not your fan fiction version of what that sentence would mean, but their actual spell casting wands. And they've never had this happen in Defense Against the Dark Arts ever.
This is the Hogwarts equivalent of, guys, we're having class outside today. Or, guys, today in class we're watching a movie. This is Hogwarts version of that, right? And yeah, there's just this instant like, hey, like, this class is chill, it's going to be fun, it's going to be challenging, but like, we're all sort of in this together. Just a great presence from him, especially compared to Lockhart last year or Quirrell in the first year. Like, Lupin just brings like a sanity to it, or brings like a level of balance to this school in a way that maybe they haven't seen heaps of. And I'm sure you're about to get to this, but then Peeves comes in. And you always forget when you reread the books that Peeves exists because he's not in the movies. And you're like, oh yeah, Peeves. And Peeves starts sort of mocking Lupin. And often we hear Peeves and Filch, and it's this back and forth kind of thing. Whereas Lupin, even with Peeves, kind of has this degree of respect. Not necessarily respect, but he just has this calm, cool nature about him when Peeves comes in, and he's just sort of like politely speaking back to Peeves. And I think, again, just shows how calm of a character this guy is and how even-minded he is.
It makes me wish now that he had come with them camping all the way later on in the books.
Yes, because he does want to come, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it's the lowest his character ever gets. But it would have been really cool to see Lupin in different types of situations of stress and how he handled it in like real world, this shit is actually going down kind of stuff, because we don't really see it. We see we see him interact with Harry and get snippy with Harry, and we see the stress and the weight of it on him when he's like undercover with the werewolves and miserable as all hell during like wartime. But
Mm.
we don't see what he could have taught them. We don't see what he could have brought to like the I think the camping scenes and experience would have been a way different, way better, like more productive venture if he was there. And I think we could have seen him do some really cool shit in different
I
things that they like interacted with or whatever.
Yeah. I always found that moment in the seventh book where Harry and Lupin basically have a big fight and Harry
Mm-hmm.
actually starts kind of insulting him a bit. And like, I think the main criticism is that he's about to have a child and he wants to
Mm-hmm.
go on this adventure, and Harry kind of calls him out on that. But I always felt like that was really harsh on Harry, to be honest. Like, and sorry, not harsh on Harry, harsh of Harry. I thought he was
Mm-hmm.
being really. I personally was always like, oh, this is out of character for Harry, who always seemed to have this unbound respect for Lupin and
Yeah.
saw him as like a mentor. To just start sort of attacking him in that way, I never really liked that. The other thing, which I was actually going to say before, but remember I said I forgot what I was going to say. This is what I was going to say. I Do you think, because when Sirius Black was, I guess, arrested and taken to Azkaban without trial, I believe, he
Mm-hmm.
would have been proclaiming his innocence, right? Sirius would have been proclaiming his innocence out loud, right?
Are
Because
you?
of course,
Yeah, you're saying like it seems like a plot hole that he didn't.
well, I think he did. I think canonically
Okay.
he must have, because he was innocent and he would have been proclaiming it, but no one would have listened to him, right? So I always wonder, just in getting into Lupin's head, did he ever hear that? Did he believe Sirius? Because he knew that Peter Pettigrew could turn into a rat. So I just wonder if Lupin ever wondered, if Lupin ever heard Sirius Black says he's innocent and then maybe added it up. It doesn't seem like he did, but surely he must have wondered.
I think what we're meant to believe is that Sirius never claimed innocence
Yeah, right. Which I just
because
find.
it does it seems well, it seems like plot convenience is what it seems like, but I think it's because I think the way that it's described is that he essentially laughed maniacally in the moment. It was almost like
Mm,
he kind of just like snapped and lost it a little bit when he was being arrested, and then
yeah.
he didn't get a trial, and at that point like he wasn't going to he had come he had essentially come to grips mentally with nobody's going to believe anything he says anyways, and in his heart he felt guilty. He
Mm,
didn't
yeah, yeah.
betray them, but it was his idea to switch to
Yes.
Peter, and
It's a
so
good
it was
point.
his fault, and so he felt like he deserved the punishment, not for what he was incarcerated for, but to be punished.
And that was his, because of his loyalty to the Potters, I guess. Like,
Yeah,
he felt like he had let them down. I still
yeah.
wonder if Lupin, because I still wonder if Lupin just went like, I can't believe that this happened because I could never see Sirius doing this. It must have crossed his mind at some point.
I think at some point what we get is that, and I think it's in the Marauders section of this book. I think we get them have a little bit of an exchange that that information had been leaking for a bit, and
There was a spy.
they suspected each other,
That's right.
and so they
Lupin
weren't
says to
that
Sirius,
close. They weren't like,
they had
yeah.
drifted apart. I still
Mhm.
do think that
I think it's all
knowing
horse shit.
them, yeah, yeah. Because I still think knowing all of them, even if they weren't close, I still think Lupin would have suspected Peter, but then maybe he was actually just like, well, of course Peter got killed. He was like the weakest of us. Like maybe he just thought, well, yeah, that does make sense that Peter died and got murdered by Sirius the traitor. Like maybe it did make sense to him. I don't know. I just always think about that.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if they were ever to explore the Marauders as its own thing officially. Like how can you portray Peter in that group in a way that he could actually betray them and could actually get one over on Sirius, and he could actually murder a dozen people in one spell, because that's a level of aptitude that we're never like given any reason to think that he has,
Yeah.
except for in that one very moment. And at the same
There's
time,
actually, sorry, you continue. Sorry.
well,
I'm
that
getting excited.
you're okay, but that he could do all of that and also not tip his friends off ever that he was capable of it.
There's actually one hint, because I'm rereading Order of the Phoenix at the moment, not to skip 2 books ahead, but
I just went on with Dan on Hogwarts
true.
Abide. So
when Harry goes into Snape's memory of Snape being bullied by the Marauders, he's in the exam room where they're all doing an exam, and he sees his dad, he sees Sirius, he sees Lupin, and then he sees Peter, and it actually mentions Peter is often looking nervous and glancing at other people's exams, trying to copy off them, which I guess isn't, I'm not saying that someone who cheats on a school exam will definitely go on to be a murderer, but it does, I think that little insight shows that Peter is someone who's unconfident in himself and will leverage off of others who know more than him and who can help him. And he will put himself above integrity, or, you know, he will go to lengths to achieve things that he otherwise couldn't. So I think that little insight to his character is really interesting. But yeah, you're right. Like, it is difficult to see at what point he transitioned from weakling student into mass murdering dark servant.
Yeah, and how do you, like I said, how do you portray a character that you believe is capable, but whose closest friends don't?
Yeah, exactly.
It's odd. Did you happen to catch this plot hole moment? Not to just like wrench us back into the chapter, but Lupin, in teaching the class about the Boggart, says nobody has ever seen what a Boggart looks like in its like when it's alone.
Yeah.
Mad Eye Moody later uses his wacky eye to confirm to Molly that several rooms away in Grimwood Place, there's a Boggart in a cupboard or wherever it is. He's like, yeah, that's a Boggart. What does he see?
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Because Moody's eye seems to have some extreme magical properties that like are never really elaborated on.
Yeah.
The other thing about Lupin, and we're talking a lot about Lupin, but it's a Lupin chapter.
It is.
This is more of a comedic take than an actual serious one. But have you noticed that a lot of Lupin's lessons involve magical creatures?
They all do.
School,
everything
in a school where the students are currently studying care of magical creatures. Like why is Lupin teaching this? Shouldn't Hagrid be teaching this? Like it's, I don't know. I just think it's a really funny thing. He doesn't really teach them like defense against the dark arts. He's teaching them defense against magical creatures. Which I just think is a funny side note.
You're absolutely correct. I don't know. But I guess the thing is, it's the defense part. And
true. You're defending yourself against something.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit of a weird thing about having this class in the first place. Like, what would be the equivalent in a non-magical school of defense against the dark arts?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
the ROTC program, but like that's not mandatory.
What's the ROTC program?
It's like military prep type of a
Okay,
thing.
sure, gotcha.
Yeah,
I don't
like
know. Is it like PE? Like,
I mean that's
like,
hooch, right? Isn't that what she does?
yeah,
Just like
true.
go
Yeah,
fly around
that's true.
brooms? It's
But
like
that's the thing. There isn't a subject at Hogwarts that's like, all right, we're going for a run. Just
yeah.
get fit. Let's play some soccer on the oval. Like, there's nothing like that.
No, and it's weird that I mean, flying lessons is the closest thing that you get to that, and they only do
Yeah,
that one time just so they can show us that Harry can fly a broom. And but it's like we don't have mandatory self-defense classes in school.
true. Well, I was
All
gonna say in America, you guys have a lot of like school shootings.
Well,
Do you
yeah,
do?
I mean that's fair. They're definitely going through like protocol drills at this point. If I understand correctly, but it's still not
It's
like
not a it's not a class where you'd have an exam for it at the end of the year.
yeah, I wouldn't think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
Maybe we should.
yeah. It is
Yeah,
interesting. It's interesting that like yeah, you wouldn't have a subject at your school that's like defense against you know war. What should you do if you find yourself in a war? Like
y-
yeah,
y-
it's
y-
funny.
yeah, because and what is the alternative, right? Like when you
Mm,
got things like Boggarts and Hinky Punks and Red
mm.
Caps and all the other stuff that he does,
Grindylows.
Grindylow, yeah, these menacing creatures that are kind of out to get you in the real world, apparently. Like, what's the alternative? Are you gonna have him shooting curses at these kids?
Yeah,
Which I
but
get
it's
to
like but
technically do later on in
we
the
wouldn't even
Half-Blood
really
Prince.
have a subject. We wouldn't have a subject that's like, hey, I don't know, like today you're gonna learn how to defend yourself if there's like a lion roaming around. Like, hey, this is what you should do if you see a lion, or here, hey, this is what you should do if you see a crocodile. Here's how you defend yourself. We don't have these subjects. So it is, yeah, it's funny.
I feel like you should have them for the tarantulas. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's just terrifying. I'm sorry. That freaks me out. But true to his word. Yeah, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah. I was going to say, going back to the chapter, I think you were about to get back into it as well. But
Mhm.
did you notice Lupin uses a spell on Peeves?
Yeah.
And it's like,
What
I
was
wrote,
he?
yeah, what a wussy. Like, what is that? That's like one of the weirdest spell names. I looked it up on Google as well. But yeah, Waddy
Did you?
Wuzzy.
Is that the only one that's not Latin, or is it actually Latin?
It cannot be Latin. Like, I'm going.
What was he?
Apparently, it's based on a Swedish word.
Oh, lovely.
So, yeah.
Wad
I
of
just think
gum
that
up the nose?
I just found that spell so out of place
Yeah.
compared to like the beauty of like the Latin words like Wingardium Leviosa, Expecto Patronum, and then Waddy Wussy. Like, so stupid.
And I listened to it on the audiobooks, the Jim Dale version, and the way that he even says it is like, what was he? It's so weird. But anyways, true to his word, as he told Snape, as Snape bullied Neville in Lupin's class too, because Snape is the worst. He does let Neville go first, and his Boggart takes the form of Snape. And this is where I
Hilarious.
get on my soapbox. They are at a boarding school.
Mm,
They spend more time at this boarding school than they spend in their own homes.
yes.
They live at this boarding school. The professors at this boarding school take more of a parental guidance role in these kids' lives than their own parents do. And
That's
this
true.
child's worst fucking fear in the world is one of his professors.
I was about to say, like, that really shows how bad Snape actually is, how mean he is, that it is his worst fear in a world of, I was going to say in a world of death and destruction, but in a world of werewolves and ghosts and literally like a whole slew of fictional, terrifying creatures that could kill you. This kid's worst fear is his teacher.
His parents were tortured into insanity. And
Yeah.
he is most afraid of his teacher.
Mm.
Let the Snape defenders come out and say, well, Snape hates Neville because Voldemort didn't choose him instead of Harry, and if he did, then Lily would still be alive. And to all of that, I say, fuck off. Snape is the worst.
Part of me, this is like in defense of this though, part of me does think maybe because these kids are like 13, 14, their understanding of fear is really like rudimentary. Like, because I would say like maybe my worst fear is like death or something, right? Or like, I don't know. Yeah, something like that. Or my family being hurt, which is like what Molly's is. Like, so a lot of these kids, all of their Boggarts are like a banshee, a mummy, a spider, a snake. They're all very childish fears.
Yeah.
Not that there's no merit in being scared of those things, but like, I think as an adult, and you see Molly's Boggart is her family dead. I feel like that's a much more adult thing.
Yeah.
So part of me wonders if Neville being most scared of Snape is just that it's a childish fear because they don't have the capability to see, that, when you're scared of spiders, you're scared that that spider is going to hurt you and bite you and maybe kill you, right? But they don't reach that far because they're kids.
Yeah, I agree with you. He wouldn't be his worst fear when Neville grows up.
Yes,
but this is the time where he's supposed to be guiding children, not becoming their worst fear. Because the girl he was obsessed with when he was a kid died because he went and told the prophecy that got her killed, and he's taking it out on this child who had nothing to do with it, an innocent child. And he goes out of his way to bully and treat like absolute garbage.
And you look at that compared to Professor Sprout, who really embraces Neville's aptitude for herbology. Like we don't see much of that. We just hear it. But I really like that Professor Sprout, because Neville is like he's I guess he's one of the dumb kids in inverted commas. Like he's not that good at magic. It doesn't come naturally to him, but there's this one thing that he's good at. And the teacher of that subject really fosters that love in him, which is what all teachers should do. But Snape is just reiterating to him that he's no good, that that he doesn't belong here in a way. And I hate that.
Yeah, he's the worst. But Lupin's great. He's reassuring, he's supportive, he's instructional. He's just a really good teacher, as we talked about before. The thing I feel like I got to ask you, because Dan brought it up in the last chapter offhand, and I hadn't thought about it, which is funny because it's the type of thing that I would actually normally think of and notice and make fun of, is he does have a room full of children facing their worst fears with an audience of their peers. This could have
that's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. But you know what? I agree with that. But in counter to that, don't you think he does it with such a reverence and respect for these students, almost making it feel like a safe space for them? Like, I feel like there's no part of it is we're going to laugh at your fear and judge you. Like, hey, we're going to do this together. Like, even Snape coming out in Neville's grandmother's clothes is like, that's a funny thing for the whole class. And I think the whole point of Ridiculous, which is like laughing at fear, is the whole class together are seeing their peers' fears and then they're all laughing together at them. And I think maybe that's the counter argument to that, even though, like, of course people are going to bully. Like, Malfoy is going to bully everyone over their fears, but I think as a core, I think there's some merit to it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think he does this. And like I said, normally that's the kind of thing I would make fun of as I'm reading through this. It never even crossed my mind. Like, and I think it's because he does it in such an emotionally supportive way, which feels very 2023 to say out loud.
Yeah. But it's true. The respect for Neville here. And he chooses Neville because he probably knows Neville isn't like a good student, like isn't a super, great student, I guess. And and the other thing is, he would have known Neville's parents.
Yeah.
he was in the Order of the Phoenix. Like, he knows Neville, he knows his parents, he knows what happened, and I think he probably also knows that Neville will be able to do this spell. He probably is giving Neville this chance to be like, hey, you can do this. Like, here, do it. I know you can do this. And I think, again, that's why he's such a good teacher.
Well, it's the vote of confidence that Neville's never had in his life.
Yeah.
You know, we end up later meeting his grandma. He makes mention of his grandma. We hear about his grandma through Professor McGonagall a few times, and his grandma's strict, and she gives him shit, and she's very open about how she's, you know, rather disappointed in his lack of, you know, natural ability right out of the gate. Granted, she didn't even get him his own fucking wand to use. He's waving a stick around. So she put him behind the 8 ball in his education in a lot of ways, and then gives him shit about it. And that's, you know, she's not a bad person. She just, you know, she just has a very, let's call it an old school way of raising Neville. Yeah. And so he hasn't gotten that support at home. He is used to getting corrected by McGonagall and almost pitied by McGonagall, and then ridiculed by Snape. We don't really see him with any other professors, so we don't really know if he's gotten support at this point anywhere for any reason on anything. So just having someone show that to him once, like, I think probably goes a hell of a long way for this kid in his confidence and his ability to show the growth that he does later in the series, especially after he gets his own fucking wand.
Yeah. But also, and going back to Lupin knowing Frank and Alice, he may not have been as close with them as he was with James and Lily, but he still would have felt the effect of their death. Oh, not their death, sorry, of their torture. He knows Neville's circumstances, and I think he's so sensitive to it. And where other teachers would almost lose patience, like McGonagall feels like she'd lose patience with Neville, whereas Lupin just gives him this moment to shine, and I love it as a moment, both in the movies and in the books. I think it's great.
Yeah, I do too. I particularly like it because it comes immediately after he's had just such a hard time in Snape's class, and it comes immediately on the heels of Snape like ridiculing him right in front of everybody. The immediate support that Lupin gives him to even outwardly to Snape to begin with, and then reinforces it in the actual classroom. It's really good. The thing that he does that I think he makes the right call for the right reason but handles the wrong way is that when it comes Harry's turn, he steps in front and doesn't let Harry face the Boggart. And we get confirmation later that he does this because he assumes that Boggart is going to take the form of Voldemort, and that's probably not the thing you want appearing in a classroom in the school. Like, not going to be great. But do you think, I always wondered about this, because if the Boggart appeared as Voldemort, it's not like it has Voldemort's, I don't know, it doesn't have his powers or anything. And the other thing is, I wonder as well, Harry doesn't know what Voldemort really looks like, I don't think, other than being Tom Riddle and maybe the face on Quirrell's head. So I wouldn't think the Boggart just has this inherent truth to it that it knows what Voldemort looks like and is just going to become Voldemort. So I guess it is smart to not let the biggest serial killing, murdering Nazi kind of guy appear in the classroom. But I wonder what shape it would have taken if it was Voldemort that it was going to become. I think that's a really good point, because the other thing that I don't know is, like, to your point, does it have just like an inherent truth that it knows? Like, how does it know how to turn into a Dementor?
Yeah, exactly.
But it does that.
It does. Yeah, that's true. Because I don't know. I don't either. The lore of the magic to that, because I guess you're right. It knows what Professor Snape looks like.
Yeah.
But that makes me think it's like reading that from Neville's mind, and Neville does know what Snape looks like, whereas Harry at this point doesn't have a picture in his mind of what Voldemort specifically looks like as a human, other than
Yeah.
Tom Riddle. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a curious thought. And
Or
why do you
is
think?
ooh, I was just gonna ask, is it weird? Is it some kind of intrinsic magic where like it doesn't have to know, it just does? Would it show up as like a how does it show up as a fragmented soul? Because that's what
Mm,
Voldemort is at the moment, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like what? Whoa.
It's- It, yeah, you're right. But even like, I guess when Molly sees the Boggart, it's split. It's almost like become a scene. It's not
Yeah,
just become a thing. It's become an actual illusion of a whole scene of dead family
yeah.
members. So it's like, yeah. I mean, maybe we don't know. It's capable of a lot more than maybe we know or think. But you think it's a misstep from Lupin to not let him face it?
I think that it made sense to back to what Dan had said. Like this could have gone really wrong. I think going really wrong could qualify as if Voldemort appeared in the middle of the classroom. Like
Mm,
that would
mm,
probably, because that's the kind of thing, the way that he is feared in this world to where like people don't even say his name and that this kind
true.
of shit, like he's a lure on like a lore of himself is that's traumatic even if it's not the real thing for these
Uh,
kids and probably not great, right?
yeah, I'm just picturing though Voldemort appearing in human form, Harry using ridiculous, his robe comes off and he's just butt naked in front of the class in Barrett. Like that's hilarious. Like I would
and,
think that's funny as fuck.
and you know he's got a complex. And maybe that's book 8
Yeah.
of your fanfic is where that complex comes from. No, but I think it's okay to step in front. What I think that he mishandled is that he didn't pull Harry aside and tell him why.
Yeah, for sure. Which in the movie he kind of does it in a way where it like looks like he's just like, oh, now it's my turn. He like sort of pretends that he's just sort of going to the front of the line a bit, if you've seen that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like he sort of sees Harry and he goes, oh shit, and then he kind of just steps in, which I guess is a better way of handling it. But you're right, like it would be a weird thing for Harry to see that happen and be like, oh, why did he do that to me, but not anyone else?
Yeah.
Um,
And it ends
but
up
it's
sending him
interesting.
into like a spiral. Like he ends up
Mm,
bringing it up with Lupin later, but it fucks with him and it gives him this like it continues this, am I weak? Do people think I'm weak? I
yes.
fainted because of the Dementors. He doesn't think I can handle it. This
Yes.
13-year-old boy complex of like I'm brave. I can handle things, whatever.
Mm,
And it was unnecessary.
yeah, for sure.
And I feel like Lupin's supposed to be portrayed as this like very emotionally intelligent character.
Yeah.
And
But
so like
I still don't think he's perfect. Like
no, he's not.
he still doesn't know how to handle a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. But then can I add, of course, then the Boggart takes the form of what we know is a full moon,
Yeah.
but to the students, it's a little bit ambiguous, right? I
Silvery
gotta
orb.
say, yeah, silvery orb. I think Lavender describes it as a crystal ball
Yeah, I said,
as
why is
well.
Lupin afraid of crystal balls?
Yeah, but I gotta say, like, and again, maybe it's just me being an adult now, but it is actually so obvious that Lupin is a werewolf, down to the point where his name is literally Remus Lupin, which are
Yeah.
two wolf names,
Yeah.
basically. His name is literally Wolf Wolf. and then and then his Boggart is a floating orb. And I guess like it's ambiguous enough that no kid is gonna be like, oh, it's the moon, he's a werewolf. But looking back now, it was, have you seen that Pitch Perfect scene where she's saying that Vader means father in German? So Darth Vader's name is actually Darth Father, and it was really obvious from the start that he was Luke's father. It's kind of like that. Like the
It
name
really
gives
is.
it all away.
It does. I think there was a banking on children not going into name origins, but
Yeah.
yeah, I remember when Eric from MuggleCast was on, he
Mm.
brought that up as he was talking about it. he's like, yeah, the people in this fandom got really passionate and really wanted to do their research, and they, and when they started to figure out things like Remus Lupin's name is Wolfie McWolferson, they
Yeah,
and
pretty
just
much.
saying it that way, like, that's always going to stick with me. But you're right. It was very, again, heavy-handed, very obvious, very should not have taken the the brain power that it does, particularly when he starts missing classes, and then Snape gives a werewolf essay, and then like it just piles
and that's
on
how
and on and
Hermione
on.
that's how Hermione picks it. But also it then goes another level for me. Now this might be hard to explain, but like obviously in the real world, our world, J.K. Rowling has given him that name to imply that he's a werewolf, right?
Yeah.
But then when Lupin is born in universe, he's not a werewolf. So it's
Nope.
just a massive coincidence that in the world his name is Remus Lupin, and
Like-
then he becomes a werewolf. Like enormous coincidence that, hey, let's call our son Wolf Wolfson. Oh, he now he's a werewolf. Like that's where naming characters that foreshadow them doesn't add up for me, because we know J.K. Rowling did it as a hint, but it doesn't make sense in the real world that it would be that. But yeah, anyway.
Professor Sprout is
yeah.
She couldn't have had any other profession ever. Professor Sprout should have like taught I don't know,
yeah, divination.
Yeah, anything. Yeah, it's odd. But you asked me why I thought that he should have pulled Harry aside, or should have known to pull Harry aside, right?
Yes.
The thing that I latched on in this is when he gave Harry points at the end of class, and Harry was like, well, I didn't do anything.
Yes.
And he's like, well, you answered my question right at the beginning of class. But like Harry was presenting obvious like self-doubt and like kind of confusion in that moment of like, you didn't let me face the thing, and now you're giving me point, like I didn't do. Like I feel like Remus is emotionally intelligent enough to pick up on those social cues and realize like, oh, he's got some questions. Let me just, because it wouldn't take much. All he had to do was just kind of like, hey, come here for a sec while everybody else leaves, and just be like, hey, I just wanted you to know I didn't want that thing to take the form of Voldemort and everybody else see it. And send him on his way. You know what I mean? Like that's all.
That's also I think that's maybe more difficult than you're giving it credit for, because it's like he's assuming that about Harry. Harry might have been like, what the fuck? I wasn't even thinking that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
Lupin doesn't know. Lupin is making that assumption. And by saying that to Harry, if Harry wasn't thinking that and it wasn't going to become Voldemort, Harry might be like, oh, what the hell? Like that could have been more. I'm just like, I don't care either way, by the way. Like, I just think it's interesting to think about.
It is. I think that's a good point. But when they do have their tea later, in one of the next couple of chapters, Harry blurts it out. He's like, why didn't you let me face it? And Lupin's almost taken aback. He goes, oh, I thought that would have been obvious. I thought it was going to take the form of Voldemort, and I didn't think that he should be showing up in the middle of the classroom. Like, I didn't even think twice. Like, I thought you would. I didn't think you'd even question that. Like, I figured that was a given. And I'm like, so if you were thinking that it was that obvious, it wouldn't have taken much to just say, hey, when this kid is looking so puzzled, I don't know. It was a weird thing that felt a little bit off. And like like I said, the only misstep of the whole thing, because I thought he did such a fantastic job teaching the class, like top to bottom.
One counter to that again, though, is Harry doesn't know, and Lupin knows that Harry doesn't know, that Lupin is more personally invested in Harry than most other teachers, bar Snape, because he knew his parents. So Harry doesn't actually know that Lupin knows so much more, because most teachers, say McGonagall or Sprout, they know Harry Potter and they know his story, but they weren't friends with his parents, right? So there's another level of care there from Lupin, and maybe that adds another layer of confusion for him on what the right thing is to do. And that giving him those house points at the end, I think, is actually a really good way to at least give him something positive out of the class. Also not just isolating him, giving them to Hermione as well. So it's like, oh, you guys answered my questions. Here's some points, right? I think you're right. He didn't handle it fantastically, but I think there were so many variables, as we've discussed, that he would have been like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'll just do this. Like, yeah.
I think you're right. And it lays it out it is way more complex than just simply being able to read the kid's mind, right? Like, I thought in a class that went almost so perfect, it was like the one thing that didn't go perfect, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
That was kind of that was really the only piece. It is interesting though that you said talked about the teachers and their investment in Harry. Snape, Lupin, Dumbledore, obviously, like pulling the strings on his entire life. McGonagall was there when he was dropped off at the doorstep. Like all of these
that's true.
professors, so many of these professors have like way more involvement in this child's life than like what your
a normal
average
teacher would
just
have.
Yeah,
like, for sure.
It's wild.
Sometimes I actually kind of wish we got maybe a little bit more, maybe a little side story involving Harry and Flitwick or Harry and Sprout, because I think it just would be interesting to see how they interact with him in a one-on-one, which we don't really ever get. I mean, beggars can't be choosers, but like it would just be cool to have those kind of plots, because I think Flitwick is just a really interesting character that we don't get heaps of, but he's there. But yeah, the amount of personal investment in a lot of, like, I mean, Trelawney made the prophecy.
Right.
She's the reason they're all dead. Like, it's her fault. She should have just shut up.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally like 4 people in the entire wizarding world, clearly, because they all are like just completely invested in this child's life. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. But that's it. That's the whole chapter.
That's it.
Did we
really
miss
good chapter.
anything? It is. It's
I
great.
don't think so. And it's, it's an iconic, I feel like this is an iconic scene in the whole series. Like this scene in the movie, I remember being very iconic at the time as well. So this was a good one to do. I'm glad this was the one that I landed on.
No, it was perfect. And I agree with you. It's one of the scenes where the movies got it about as right as you're gonna get. And even so much so that it became one of those fan service things that they ended up doing in the Fantastic Beasts movies, and having Dumbledore do the same thing in that flashback thing, which
I forgot that
people bitched about. But the fact that this resonated so hard that they would want to do that says something about this scene in its original form. Yeah,
for sure.
All right, well, let's give out some house points and probably take some away if I had to take a guess. I am going to let me explain house points. In true Hogwarts fashion, these points are completely subjective, with no oversight and fully at our discretion. So with that being said, I'm giving Neville points for putting up with Snape and building confidence to face his fears with the Boggart and being the one to finish it off. We didn't mention that, but he actually finished off the Boggart and made it go poof into nothingness. It wasn't Lupin like it is in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm giving him 10 points for that. I'm giving Lupin points, obviously. I'm giving him 25 for being an awesome teacher and giving Neville the support and confidence that he's never fucking gotten ever. Do you want to give any points away to anybody for any reason?
So you can deduct points?
Oh yeah, I'll do that next.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's give then deduct. Okay, I want to give 20 points to Neville. Because I think he's just really brave and confident in this chapter. And I want to give 20 points to Ron, if that's okay, because I think He's the only one who's paying attention to Hermione's wacky time traveling adventures.
He's the only
and
one that cares.
I think we owe it to him to do him some justice. So I'll give some to Ron.
Do it. All right, so I'm going to take 30 points away from Snape for being the opposite of a good teacher, being an awful teacher and an awful human being. And I'm also taking away 10 points from Draco Malfoy for being a douche.
I was going to say, I was going to do the two same ones. So I'm going to take 20 from Malfoy for, doing what he did. But also one thing we did forget is when Pansy Parkinson is asking him how much it hurts and he lies about it and winks at Crabbe and Goyle like, so this'll get her to like me. I hate that. Sorry, Malfoy. And then
I'm not.
Yeah, I'll take some from Snape as well for just being such a dickhead.
He's the absolute worst. Okay, final thing.
Do you guys
say
one thing? Do you guys say dickhead in America?
We do.
Do you say that?
We do.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's not as super common at this point in time. In growing up in the circles that I grew up in, dickhead was thrown around quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. Because you don't hear it in many of your shows and stuff. I thought maybe it was an Aussie thing, but no, it's good to know it's another thing we've taken from you guys.
Okay. One last thing that we got to do, and that is expecto plot changeo. We're going to rewrite Harry Potter one small change at a time. The question from this chapter is, what if Hermione didn't help Neville with his potion? How could that have changed the chapter and also potentially beyond that?
Well,
any ideas?
Okay. Yeah, I do have ideas. Like,
great.
Okay, Neville screws up the potion.
Mm-hmm.
Snape force feeds it to Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor dies of poisoning in front of the entire class. The students all talk about this. Surely one of them would report it to McGonagall because that's a fucked thing. Like this is a child's pet. There's a child's pet. I know it's a toad, but it's a pet. Someone goes to McGonagall, hey, like in our class, Professor Snape did this. And I'm sorry, but that is absurd. Someone would tell their parents. Parents would then go to the headmaster or to McGonagall and be like, hey, you cannot employ a man who is killing people's pets to prove a point in front of them. That toad was Neville's grandma, that toad was a beloved pet of my grandchild. How could you have allowed this to happen in this school? To which then Snape gets fired. And then the whole course of the books change because Snape isn't there anymore. That's what I think could happen.
I love it. I'm a big fan. I wish that would have happened.
It would have been great. No more Snape.
It's so wonderful. Yeah. No more Snape as a professor.
Slughorn comes in book 4. The whole course of everything would change.
I would be in favor. I would be totally on board. And actually, it might actually make me want to invest in Snape as a character at all. Yeah. Because I say all this shit about Snape. It just pisses me off so much because of the way that he treats children from a point of, authority and guidance that he's supposed to have over them. He actually has a character that could have been otherwise compelling in this series.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he ruins it because he's a total dick to children.
Not a good guy.
The worst.
We all know a Snape in our real lives. We've all had one.
Like that?
No, not that bad.
That's
not
fair.
That bad.
That's fair.
We all had a teacher who had a crush on our mum at high school.
We did. We totally did.
Now he's acting as a double agent with Wizard Hitler.
Yes.
Because of that crush.
I thought I was the only one. Like, you too?
Yeah. No, I have one too. Yeah, don't worry.
All right, good. I'm so glad. I will share that question across social media. It's at Belated Binge on all the things. With that, we've reached the end of this episode of Belated Binge. Thank you so much for doing this. Plug anything and everything, all of the things.
Well, this was awesome. I'd love to do another one, by the way. So
yes, please
tee that up sometime. Yeah,
open door.
Great. Awesome. And then I just type in Radio Mike Australia somewhere on Google, on the internet. You'll find me. You'll eventually find me. And then I do two podcasts, Harry Potter and the Boys, which we talked about, and 20th Century Boy, which is just like almost like a blog kind of style thing. It's the conversations you wish you were having about the stuff that no one else cares about. So, yeah, just go and give that a listen. It's out every Thursday. Harry Potter and the Boys is out every Tuesday. And if you happen to be in Melbourne on December 15th, we're doing a live podcast. So if you want to fly over from America,
Book your ticket now.
I mean, I assume you have listeners in Australia. So if you're in Melbourne, come see our live show, December 15th.
It'll be worth it. I promise. I'm not gonna get to go, but go for me. Record it on your phone. I want all of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Just show up. Put my name on your name tag. Just pretend to be. Steal my identity. Actually, don't do that. Don't. I want to keep my identity intact. Please don't be one of those people. If you enjoyed this, please follow, subscribe, all the things on all the podcast players that you're doing. If you're so inclined, check out the additional benefits on patreon.com/belatedbinge. The website has links to all of the things, belatedbinge.com. Thanks for listening and for telling all your Potterhead friends that their new favorite podcast should be Belated Binge, Harry Potter.